Have you ever heard anybody that's not an action figure collector use the term toe articulation? And honestly, if you ask anybody that's not an action figure collector what a butterfly joint is, they'll probably just assume you're a drug dealer. If you got that joke, congratulations. If not, let's wait a minute. Let the slower people catch on. Anyways, guys, let's get serious here for a brief moment. Let's put our serious faces on. I'm totally kidding. This is an action figure collecting channel. We don't talk about anything serious, anything important. They're just action figures, okay? There's no need for us to be cursing and throwing stuff at walls or ripping our own chest hairs out. However, you can't always come on the internet and just complain and criticize, because that's what the internet is all about. Just a bunch of complainers and people that love stuff. You can find people that hate stuff as much as you do or love stuff as much as you do. And today, well, I'm hoping that you guys can come along for the ride of me just absolutely hating and bashing stuff. Not really, but I'm going to give you guys my personal take, my opinion on some stuff that's really kind of bugging me recently. Some stuff is a little bit more heinous than others, but as you guys can tell from the thumbnail, I'm just not very happy about some of the Mcfarlane releases. And I guess we should start off with that White Knight Batmobile. And let me just start off by saying I have no problem with him making Batmobiles. I just dislike the idea of him manufacturing a Batmobile for such an obscure comic book series. And look, I've read the White Knight series here and there a little bit. I'm very familiar with it, but it's kind of a cult classic. Like, not everybody is into the White Knight universe. Most people are following the mainstream, like detective comic books or a couple of other little offshoots from the DC comic book universe. Not that many people are jumping into the White Knight comic book series. I personally question his choice to go straight into the White Knight universe, and I get it. We've received like maybe 4 to 5 different characters from that universe. We've received the Batman, the Joker, the Azrael, and a couple of other figures that, I can't really think of off the top of my head, but he has given us a few characters, so I guess it makes sense from that perspective. But we are getting like the Reeves DC cinematic universe that he could have easily gone to and given us that Batmobile, which is a lot more relevant to mainstream. And you're not going to please like the 20 people that want the White Knight Batmobile, but I think with the newer Batmobile from the Reeves universe, obviously you reach a wider audience, which I would assume is what Mcfarlane wants. And don't get me wrong, he has been doing a phenomenal job when it comes down to the vehicles. I own the original Bat Raptor, which is a pretty decent vehicle for like a $25 price point. But then he did decide to release that Michael Keaton Batmobile, and then we are getting a Tumbler from the Dark Knight universe. So it's not like he's just giving us some absolutely hideous, disgusting vehicles. I just question whether he could have done this towards the back end. First complete some really good displays out there that require more vehicles, and then eventually kind of circle back around to this one. It does look pretty decently sculpted. However, there have been multiple different comments and a number of different people that have mentioned that the Batman looks incredibly snug in there, especially if you have the caped version. You're gonna have to whip out a machete or something like that to try to get rid of that hideous cape, because there's no way it's fitting in there. And in case you guys are wondering exactly what the price point is for this figure, you're looking at $89.99, and I'm just gonna assume that there's no free shipping included here. I'm just gonna assume that you still have to pay for that, so you're roughly looking at about $100 for the White Knight Batmobile. And as I mentioned, I question this decision, not only because you're pandering to maybe like 100 White Knight fans out there, and then on top of it, you're assuming that every single one of those fans of this particular series actually has an extra $100 to spend on a Batmobile. So interesting choice from Mcfarlane, to say the least. The other two reveals that I wanted to kind of touch on a little bit are essentially 2 repaints, and I shouldn't say that. They're not technically repaints. One of them is just reusing the exact same body mold with translucent plastic, and then the other one is using, I guess, glow-in-the-dark paint, which is something that Mcfarlane is really into nowadays. Mcfarlane, in all of his infinite wisdom, decided to re-release that old Joker body mold on translucent blue plastic and then make it a GameStop exclusive. It's going to be limited to like 7,000 pieces. They're referring to these action figures as Frostbite versions of the originals. Like I said, just translucent plastic. There are some people out there that get absolute hard-ons when they get to see like the inner workings of action figures. I'm not an engineer. I don't plan on making my own action figure line anytime soon. So for me, this is just an absolute 100% pass. This makes absolutely no sense to me. And you can bash Hasbro as much as you want. I don't think Hasbro has ever done this where they re-release the exact same body mold and try to pass it off as something completely different. Yes, they do decide to re-release some figures from time to time, but that's usually because the figures are very highly coveted or they've gone up astronomically high in the third-party market. So they usually re-release it with like a different paint job and extra accessories, kind of like with the Black Series and the retro carded line. But it's not just a brand new paint job with one monotone color or just translucent blue plastic and then re-release it and have it be full price. This is an absolute joke to me. And there are people peddling in this out there. I mean, there are legitimate content creators. I mean, like big legitimate content creators that are passing these off as like ice sculpture figures. Hey, these are great. Continue doing this, Mcfarlane. They sound like Mcfarlane door-to-door salesmen. And look, anybody can have their own personal opinion. People can choose to buy these if they want. I'm just giving you guys my personal criticism. This is an absolute joke, and anybody that tries to peddle this, they know better. They know exactly what's happening here. Mcfarlane is just trying to stretch the buck as much as he possibly can, but there's a fine line there. Yes, he can continue to try to find ways to work within a budget, but then there's also just kind of slapping the consumer across the face, which is what I think Mcfarlane is doing. He also decided to re-release the Futures End Batman, but instead of just giving everybody an exact re-release of that bath, which at this point I'm assuming is a little bit out of the reach for certain people. Maybe some of the figures in that particular wave have gone up in value. I haven't actually checked it recently, but again, I'm just going off of the assumption just because he is deciding to re-release this figure. But as I said, he didn't just decide to just re-release it in a big deluxe figure setting. He decided to throw on some glow in the dark paint and then make it an Amazon exclusive, which I'm assuming is going to be very limited. And I continue to question Mcfarlane with all of these choices, because if he really wanted to give people a second opportunity at this figure, then he should have just re-released it and made it a mainline release as a deluxe figure. And let's be brutally honest, even Hasbro has done this from time to time. If they see that there's a lot of demand for a bath that was released maybe a few years ago, just like with the Rhino, just like with the Gladiator Hulk, they decide to re-release it in some way and give new collectors or people that just decided to not pick up an entire wave for one figure, they decide to give them another opportunity, another crack at it. And that's exactly what I thought Mcfarlane would have done with this figure, but instead he does another one of his gimmicky releases. I'm honestly baffled and very confused by some of his recent choices, and I've said this before, I consider myself a diehard Mcfarlane fan. When I personally believe that he's being unfairly criticized, I'm like the first one to defend him. But recently, it's been very difficult to get behind Mcfarlane. I really want to jump in on some of his waves and some of his newer releases, but it's just very difficult. A lot of it is just a bunch of re-releases, store exclusives that have no business existing, like translucent blue Jokers. I'm just so confused. But look, everybody has their own taste. Everybody has their own personal opinion. Let me know yours down below. Am I completely off the rails here, or do you kind of agree with some of the points that I made? Very curious to see what the community has to say as a whole. As I always say, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and stay tuned. We upload a bunch of random action figure nonsense pretty consistently, so if you guys are into that kind of stuff, stay tuned. Stay safe out there. Enjoy the hobby, probably the most important part of it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys.